Fox News alert, the president has just pulled the plug on his Camp David cabinet meeting and ordered everybody to report to the White House tomorrow to solve the Iran situation once and for all. Marco Rubio says the deal could happen at any second.
I think there's strong alignment and agreement on what a preliminary draft should look like. I think that, like anything with something like this, it's going to take a couple days to settle on, even down to the disagreements over a word. Sentence. So we'll have to work through that. If there's going to be a deal, we're going to have to work through that. But this is, it's either going to be a good deal or there isn't going to be one.
Over the weekend, the president called the Arabs and said he's only going to sign the deal and reopen the strait if they join the Abraham Accords. That means Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Pakistan, Turkey, Jordan, all normalize relations with Israel. Now, when Trump dropped that on them, the Arabs were, quote, stunned. Another source tells Axios that they ended up telling the president this, quote, "We are with you on this deal, and if it doesn't work, we will be with you too." Now, we're pinning the whole Arab world against the Iranians. Trump just turned the Abraham Accords into a trap. It means if the Iranians and their proxies mess with Israel, they're messing with the whole rest of the Arab world. And for us, that means we don't have to be the Middle East babysitters. They all have skin in the game. And Trump says if the gay Ayatollah doesn't give us his John Hancock soon, he'll blow up. Yesterday, he gave him a little love tap. The commander-in-chief carried out strikes in southern Iran. We caught the Mosquito fleet laying mines along the strait. We lit them up. And when Iran retaliated with missiles, we wiped out their launchers. The Pentagon says this was purely defensive. The Israelis are still pulling triggers. Over 100 Hezbollah targets were struck in overnight action in Lebanon. The Pentagon isn't slowing down either. We've been testing the Breaker, a bunker rupture warhead that can be carried by a drone. And when dropped, watch out. Now, are we going to use the Breaker to shake loose the uranium? Well, the deal on the table right now is no dust, no deal. Before anything happens, though, Iran has to open up the strait. No terrorism, no tolls. Now, after they do that, and only after they do that, we'll start loosening the blockade. At the same time, we ensure the uranium is being destroyed. The president said it like this, quote, "The enriched uranium, nuclear dust, will either be immediately turned over to the United States to be brought home and destroyed, or preferably in conjunction and coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, destroyed in place or at another acceptable location." Remember, Space Force is watching the 3 nuke sites. The dust is buried deep under the rubble. So when they start delivering on the deal and we monitor it, we'll start unfreezing some bank accounts. Anything else that's being reported is BS. That's according to White House officials. The president has made it clear that he's not budging on this, and he's got the wind at his back.
These incredible men and women gave their lives to ensure that the world's #1 state sponsor of terror will never have a nuclear weapon. Oh, and they won't. They will never have a nuclear weapon. I'm sure you know that.
The blockade's already cost Iran $20 billion. You add that to the cost of the war and Trump's sanctions before it, the Iranians are over $100 billion in the hole. Most of their top leaders are either dead, crippled, or in hiding. And now the whole world's putting pressure on the Guard to let the tankers sail.
Well, the straits have to be open. They're going to be open one way or the other. So they need to be open. What's happening there is unlawful, it's illegal, it's unsustainable for the world, it's unacceptable. I don't know of any country in the world that does it. The Russians are not in favor of a tolling system. The Chinese are not in favor of a tolling system. I mean, there's no country in the world that's in favor of a tolling system except the regime in Iran. So that's not acceptable. That cannot happen. The straits need to be open, unimpeded, without tolls. And obviously that needs to happen immediately as soon as anything's agreed to.
We've played a lot of footsie. We keep hearing that we're close, then it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The Iranians are gnarly and opaque. It's hard to know with these people. Some generals want to finish off the target list before negotiations, and others, they want to see complete regime collapse.
If we make this deal, it's going to empower Iran. By that I mean, listen, they are bruised and weakened to be sure, but they will remain intact as a result of it. Any deal that they will agree to, and we will likely grant, will have to provide financial relief for them, and that will enable them with billions of dollars to recover the regime. That means that the idea that this regime would eventually go away and collapse and goes completely off the table, and we'll be dealing with this regime for years to come.
A senior administration official says, quote, the president's view right now is that you would need a substantial escalation in order to meaningfully change things that are going on the ground. And you could always get more through military conduct. The question is whether you could get something that's worth the cost. Now, the Iranians aren't going to be rearming anytime soon because we knocked out their military-industrial complex. We have eyes in the sky the whole time, and we'll have inspections underground. And I'm sure we'll be leaving a carrier strike group off their coast just to make sure they keep their word. It's not like Obama, who gave them billions of dollars and didn't inspect and let them enrich. But Obama world says Trump's just jealous of Barry's deal.
He pulled out of that deal mainly because of his hostility to Obama. This is something Obama did, so I don't like it. He needs the appearance of some victory, but he's not going to get it because they are the ones that are sitting with more of the leverage.
The press is acting like Trump's the bad guy. He didn't close the strait. He didn't lay mines and fund terrorism. Rubio told some wise guy from the BBC to get it together.
They would rather invest in Hezbollah. They would rather invest in the rapists and the murderers of Hamas. They would rather invest in those groups than they do in their own people. That's what Iran invests in. And that's what the world, that's what you should be asking me about. That's what the BBC should be covering. And that's what these other media outlets should be covering, is how evil these people are in Iran and the damage they've done to people all over the world.
The media is actually boosting Iran's bargaining power because they make them think that Trump's backed into a corner. Trump's not in an underground hospital bed with no lips. He's building a UFC cage at the White House for America's 250 fight night. And the market doesn't think Iran has too much fight left. The S&P hit another all-time high, and oil closed below $100 a barrel. Now, hopefully, prices come down at the pump soon. Administration sources say the deal is about 90% of the way done. They think it could be papered in less than a week. They're just negotiating over specific words. Remember, the Persians need to save a little face. So they're haggling about how things are phrased so they can go beat their chests back home. Now, the cabinet meeting will determine how Trump lands this plan, and we'll have a full report tomorrow on how it shakes out. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.